and all these. Yeah.
Good.
So hope it will be very fruitful, right?
Right.
पहले इसका रखना है, फिर उसका, फिर वो रोहतक वाली है ना, रोहतक वाली ये रोहतक वाली किधर है? रोहतक वाली नौ किधर है? जी ये रंजना है, शोभा स्टूडेंट है, ये जी
Yeah, Ranjana, start this now. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Good morning. Warm greetings from SVB's Saraswati College of Education and Research. I, Assistant Professor Ranjana Rai, thank you all for joining us today for this webinar on role of innovating teaching strategies to enhance pedagogy. I request our principal, Dr. Gigi Sahaya, to kindly deliver the welcome address. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am. Ma'am?
Good morning to everyone. On behalf of the management and Saraswati College of Education and Research, I take this opportunity to welcome you all to the international webinar on role of innovative teaching strategies to enhance pedagogy. Firstly, I would like to welcome our founder president, Sir Dr. R. Varadarajan, who strives hard for providing quality education by upgrading and remodeling all of his 69 institutions from time to time. Sir, we are extremely blessed and honored to have you amongst us. I would also like to welcome our director, Dr. Balasubramanian B, for gracing our event with his presence. Hearty welcome to our eminent speakers, Dr. Olisia Dimitrieva, an Associate Professor of Foreign Languages, Department at the Don Bosco State Pedagogical University, Ukraine. Dr. Vinay Godre, an Associate Professor and Head Department of Hindi Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. Dr. Renu Yadav, an Assistant Professor in Department of Education in Central University of Haryana. We are so pleased to have you amongst us, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your valuable knowledge with our participants today. I would also like to welcome our teaching and non-teaching staff. I would like to extend my warm welcome to all the participants. We assure you that this webinar will prove very insightful, as we have a very good lineup of eminent speakers, and we hope this session enriches your knowledge. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The National Education Society and Saraswati Vidya Bhavan group of institutions have been constantly pioneering in the field of education by setting landmarks and creating new records each year. Let's have a glimpse.
Did you read them?
Hello. माझ्यासोबत बोलत करे. तुझ्यासोबत बोलत.
We will begin with our session. Dear participants, it gives me immense pleasure to invite Dr. Renu Yadav, our first speaker for today's session. Dr. Renu Yadav has 10 years of teaching experience in the field of education. She is working as Assistant Professor in Department of Education in Central University of Haryana. She has been awarded with Gold Medal in MSc Microbiology. Her doctoral work is on emotional intelligence. Ma'am has written more than 30 research papers in national and international journals with impact factor in area of gender, leadership skill, socio-emotional skills, well-being, third gender, sexual harassment, and women's safety. She presented in more than 80 national and international seminars and conferences. She has invited as residential fellow at Institute of Advanced Studies, University of Warwick, United Kingdoms. Ma'am has organized and chaired more than 100 programs at university, national, and international level. Her interest also includes social outreach programs and theatre. She has organized and directed more than 100 street plays in villages, schools, colleges, and universities. She is a coordinator and member of many administrative bodies of Central University of Haryana, including Member School Board, Departmental Research Committee, Convener, Women Empowerment Cell. She is also associated with many international projects. I welcome you, ma'am, requesting you to kindly share your views.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, my pleasure to be here. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, it's my pleasure to be here. And in this reputed college, I have read about the history of the college. It's really college with this foundation of education. So first of all, my greetings to Principal Dr. Gigi Sa for inviting me. And one more person who have connected us to this platform is Dr. Amruta Panda. She is a very good friend of me. And when we were talking about that, how to, about international webinar. So in that particular conversation, she said, okay, let's do an international webinar. And I contacted, we have tried to find out the people who are really suitable for this prestigious institution. So it's really wonderful to be here, and I'm really thankful to Dr. Amruta Panda that she has collaborated me with such an eminent institution. So after that, I'm sharing my screen, and if in between, I will ask that whether I'm audible or not. So I will request that you please just say yes, okay? Because sometimes it happened, we got disconnected, and I keep on speaking, and you will don't know that whether I'm speaking. So now I'm sharing my screen. Will you please enable me to share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Share.
Okay. Is it visible to you, everyone? My screen is
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's great. So here I want to talk about that how this we are much nowadays we all are talking about the technology, and we are all struggling to just connect with technology, as today also we are connected with technology only. And so everyone is struggling or juggling, I can say, to meet out the expectations of the technology. In one day we sleep and we wake up and we found that yes, we have to teach through online mode. The teachers who used to be the classroom teachers and the teachers who used to teach in their normal classrooms, they were told that now you have to teach the online. Then we all started with the Zoom, and then Cisco WebEx and many other platforms, and nowadays Google Meet is also there. So this transformation of so quick transformation, I can say, so this quick transformation compel us to think that what kind of pedagogy we should use for our classrooms, so that our students are enabled, so that we can enhance their capabilities. As you know that Amartya Sen talks about the capability approach, and I'm a very big fan of him. So I really admire his concept of capability approach, where he talks about that we should give the opportunity to the learners so they can give their 100%. So it means now we have to change our pedagogy, which should be integrated with technology, so that the learners can be, you can say that learners should be unable to learn at the max. So now previously the scenario was that we used to have some curriculum having certain objectives, then we used to have certain pedagogies in our for transaction of that particular curriculum, and then we used to have some examination mostly in the form of the written form, maybe that is formative or summative assessment. So in that scenario, the whole situation was different, because you was with the learner, so you come to know that how the learner is feeling and how the learner is learning, and then where is the need to do the reforms. But now, as we are doing this thing online, so now there is a need, I can say there is a dire need to change the whole curriculum pattern. Because previously we used to have that students will be able to demonstrate, or whatever the Bloom taxonomy or any other taxonomy we are following for making the instructional objectives. But now the thing has been changed. Now you should make the learner first, we should take care of their emotional well-being, then their social well-being, then their technological skills. As if I talk about, as Alicia and Dr. Vinay will more talk about the global perspective, here I want to take the Indian perspective. But because everyone, as I said, that in just one day someone said that you have to now teach online, then the whole scenario gets changed. But to come up or to meet those expectations, there should be a lot of changes. So first we should analyze in terms of the infrastructure what we have right now, because first that infrastructure will decide what kind of platform you can use to teach the students online. So first we have to see the digital divide of India. Before that, I want to say that we should not be afraid from it. Fine, India is a country having a lot of opportunity for the online learning. If you see these figures, that the online education market of the India is around about 247 USD million. Okay, and 1570 are the number of paid users in thousands. Then how the people are using these particular online platforms, that for primary and secondary or supplemental education, 73 million businesses there. I'm here talking about in terms of economics, because first we should know before adopting certain strategies, how this can help us for the economic boosting of our country. Then for the test preparation, then for the reskilling and online certification, then for the higher education, and then for the language and casual learning. So this is the, you can say, the economic opportunity for the online learning. So with this positive note, I want to start that there is a good opportunity for online learning. First, we have to remove our fear, and then After removing our fear, there is one important dimension which we should consider before adopting the online strategies, to see the infrastructure. See, as in the first statement I said, the infrastructure is really a significant dimensions. If you don't have the infrastructure, how can you assume that your learner will get the maximum? So this is the infrastructure, because there is an inequality in terms of the infrastructure. I can say it's a digital divide. So first, if I say the digital divide, then in terms of urban and rural, you can see the digital divide. That urban population is around 34%, but their internet density means how many percentage of the people using internet is the 97.9%. In rural population is the 66%. As you know, the India is the country of the villages. So the rural population is 66%, but the people who are using the internet is 25.3%. See the disparity between urban and rural population, that the size of the population, and then how the people are using the internet density. Okay, so we can see a wide gap between these two figures. That figures itself is sufficient to say that if infrastructure is not made available to the people, it will be very difficult to teach with the technopedagogies. Then if you see in terms of the gender, men versus women, I have not included all of the genders because data are not available. So if you see in terms of men and women, the urban man have access to internet is 60%, and urban women, if I say that they have access to internet is only 40%. See, here also you can find the digital divide, that if being in a urban area is not sufficient to get the resources, fine. There is also a divide of the gender in terms of accessing the, you can say, the technology. So urban men are 60% accessing this digital technology, and then 40% women. And if you see the rural scenario, then 67% of the men in rural area are accessing the online resources, and 33% women are accessing it. Now you can see the whole scenario give you a very clear picture, of what, that how we have the infrastructure and what kind of resources in terms of access we have. See, this is if in this kind of scenario we are talking about that our students can learn efficiently from the online, then I think it's a kind of injustice to them. As we all used to have classes online till now, that sometimes, as our university is central university, so we have students from 20 different states. So sometimes after this lockdown, they went to their home, and some are in the Kerala, some are in the Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh. So when we used to take classes, they have this problem that we don't have the internet facility at home, or it generally got disconnected. So how I can expect that student can submit the online assignment? We are talking about that we have to make MOOC, and we have to teach the students through MOOCs, or give them the deadlines that how to give the exam or assessment should be online. But in that scenario, I think first thing which is very much significant, that we have to provide them the infrastructure, because in this digital divide you can't talk about the technopedagogies. So first thing, if this infrastructure is provided to the learners, then we can shift to the what kind of technopedagogies we should adopt. So as you know that we everyone is talking about the 21st century skills, and we are saying that 21st century skills are really essential, because 21st century skills are not just talking about the computers. This is much more than the computer. Here first, what is about that 4C concept you must have heard, that learning and innovation skills, or 4Cs, should be developed among the learners. What are these 4Cs are? First, if you say this is the critical thinking, that you have to develop the critical thinking among the learners. Then you should develop the communication skills, as now we all are very disturbed with the you can say the person from media, Sushant Singh Rajput, has committed suicide, and we all used to say, a lot of talk was there about depression, and there was no communication, although he was maybe there are, I don't know what are the reasons were involved in that, because that's the not the work of the academician. But the thing is, the discussion which has been immersed, that why the people are committing this kind of act, because they don't have the communication with their families or with their so that after lockdown we are feeling that some people are getting very much bored, because they because we are not attuned to live only in the family. So so that communication is very significant. If you see the UGC website, there is a course on life skills, a beautiful course UGC has designed on choice-based credit, involving choice-based credit system, or CBCS. They have involved a very beautiful course on life skills, and in that course they talks about that these are these collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. This is very much essential skills which must be taught to the students as a life skill. And I think these 4 skills are really required. So in later in the presentation, I will try to cover up how these how innovative techno-pedagogies can be used to address these skills. Then in 21st century skills, the another dimension is life and career skills. Life and career skills are related with the first thing, if I say, that is about the flexibility and adaptability, that we are not very much flexible to adapt to the new situation. As I have felt that some are very rigid about adopting the technology. No, this is not good. I think we should experiment first. Okay, then we can give a conclusion. So at least we should have an attitude to experiment. Then it should give you initiative and self-direction. So where you can learn, because the techno-pedagogies are more inclined to the self-learning. So we have to make our learner in a way that they should have that particular zeal to learn themselves. Because in common classroom, what was the scenario that we many times, I think many times we compel the students, no, you have to complete this assignment and then tomorrow you should come to the class. And when you are doing it face to face, then students has to come prepared. But now in online mode, they should be made prepared that yes, we have to be prepared for the self-learning. Then they should have the leadership and responsibility. And how this leadership will be developed in them? When they have the initiative power, when they have the collaboration power, then only their social and emotional competences will be developed for their life and for their career. Because in career also it's very much required. So what are the keys? Then what are the 21st century support system? If I say that first, we should have a assessment. Assessment should be totally changed, because the way we were used to assess, now that will not work. Just few days back, I had a lecture on online assessment tools. Then we come to know that we were so tuned to the writing work or subjective questions that we really don't think that it's a good idea to have those tools. Like there are so many tools for the assessment. Very simple one is the Google Forms, where you can create many things, and then after that there are lot many, so we can explore them. So if you are teaching the 21st century skills, you should have a assessment also of 21st century skills. You can't assess the skills which you thought there should be a subjective explanation. Then curriculum should be also like this, where you can teach the 21st century skills. And then professional development also should be according to the skills which we have planned for our learners and to teach them these 21st century skills. So in that particular thing, information and communication and media technology or skills becomes very important. Okay, because this how you will develop, and especially in this time after, I think after COVID-19, the whole scenario will get changed for the education. So how you will assess this? So there should be, I'm here just talking about first the literacy, that we should be literate enough to know these technologies. Then after that, we can be acquainted with it, and then we can adopt this. So what should be the key subjects to collaborate all these skills of the 21st century? I can say that all these subjects like English, reading, language, all these, see, generally we have a perception that for the science student it's not required. When I will take you through the innovative pedagogies, I will try to connect you that it's not about science and social science. I am also from the science background and coming to the education. So the thing is about connecting the things, connecting. And whenever we see the application or social application or connecting, it's always social sciences. So sciences is also connected with the social sciences. So we should not presume it that this all are required for the social science people, not for the science people. So in that way, we have to develop 21st century skills. All you have seen that TPAC model, you must be well aware of about Collar and Mishra 2006 TPAC model, where they talks about that technology, pedagogy, and content that should be integrated in a way that it should be techno-pedagogical content knowledge. So that's very important. See, here, now, even a single dimension be ignored, because first if I talk about the content, then if a teacher is not well versed with the content, he can't use technology. Nowadays mostly people have this perception that even if you don't have the content knowledge, then also it's good. Nowadays everything is available. It's not like that. If the teacher first should know the content, then only he or she can design the pedagogy and can integrate the appropriate technology in this. So it's a combination, right? So first you should have a content, then you should adopt some pedagogy, and that pedagogy should be integrated with the technology for enhancing the access and to approaching the equity. So these two dimensions, content and pedagogy, remains the significant, crucial forever. So don't have this particular perception which generally teacher have that technology will replace us. Technology will never ever replace the teacher. Okay, because these two part technology can't create for you, content and pedagogy. Okay, so that a teacher should know. Then that teacher can integrate the appropriate technology to deliver the content through appropriate pedagogy. So this TPAC model in a way should be inculcated in our curriculum, that it should give the learning outcome in a way that which we have planned. Like as you have seen now, the NCERT is giving documents for what are the learning outcomes should be there. Previously, we used to talk about only the academic achievement, where we used to say that students should get some marks, and that's the more than enough to measure their learning outcome. But now, if you read the document of the NCERT, that says that learning outcomes they have prepared for elementary and secondary both level. So if you see those documents, it's not only about the how much you can say the understand the content, but it is more about the skills and how you will develop the skills if you have the proper integration of this content, pedagogy, and technology. So that is very much required in this particular scenario. Then how to select this technopedagogy? See, as I said, the technology can't replace the teachers. So the process of selecting pedagogy is really a crucial step if you want to adopt this technopedagogy. So first thing, what is the learning objective you have? You like previously you used to have a lesson plan where you have the objective, then you decide the pedagogy, then you decide the content, and then transaction method and assessment and all. So the same way, while adopting the technopedagogy, first thing which should come in your mind is the learning objective. What are you expecting from the students? That should be clearly defined in terms of their skills, in terms of their application, in terms of their understanding. So those learning objectives should be well defined. Then after after deciding the learning objectives, we should take care of learners as well. As you know that we all are facing this particular pandemic where I think the most significant dimension for the learner is their social emotional well-being. So now it's not a normal situation, so you don't know that how that person is going through at home or what kind of condition that person has. So you should take care of the learner. That's why now mentoring is really a significant dimension when you decide about the learners. So while mentoring, you should decide that what kind of you can say requirement. Those requirements are not only related with the academics, but those requirements are also related with the emotional well-being. That's why the UGC says that that life skill course is really significant. So you should then decide who are the learners, what are their social, emotional, and academic needs. Then after deciding these two things, then you have to see the available resources. As you know that when you earn available resources not only for the teachers but for the learners as well, because anyway only learners are going to read from your whatever the resources you are sharing. So you should analyze the available resources in terms of the teacher. Malavi means what available resources are available with you, and then in terms of the learner. So you have to means, like if you see there is a case study of the Ghana where there is mobile technology is very prominent one, because they have very far-flung areas like us, and they don't have the internet and all. So Alicia is very much acquainted with this. And she used to give radio talks. So the radio could be also a very significant tool for the teaching. So you have to think that what kind of resources you can use. In India also we have the Swam Prabha channel, or Swam portal is there also, but Swam Prabha is really a good channel. You should you recommend to your students to learn from there. Then that particular resources, after deciding what are the available resources, those resources should be I think the most important thing is that those resources should be user friendly. Because sometimes it happens that we have decided for some tool and that tool is very complicated in handling. So maybe you learn to handle that tool, but your learners can't. So you have to see that that resource should be user friendly in terms of learner and in terms of the teachers also. Then that technopedagogy should enhance their capacities, which I have talked earlier. So if you have framed your aim, that what is your aim, accordingly you should use the pedagogy. As I have taken this from CIT, and then if you have the learning aim to disseminate up-to-date knowledge, then the common teaching method could be lecture. Okay, but if you want to develop the capability to use ideas and information, then case study will be more appropriate than the lectures. So, and if you want to develop the students' ability to test ideas and evidence, then seminars will be more appropriate. Likewise, there is a full table on CIT website. If you see that what aim you have, and according to the aim, what I was talking just in previous slide, that what learning objective you have, accordingly you should develop the teaching method. So likewise, if you have the aim to facilitate the personal development of the students, then role play, experiential learning, this is the better method to teach in the class. So you should decide the learning aim, and accordingly you should decide the teaching method. So what I was saying in previous slide, that learning aim or learning objective was really important, and that's the domain of the teacher, and that's why the teachers remain significant forever. So then I here take only two innovative pedagogies which helps to increase the access and equity both. One is for access, one is for the equity. So first innovative pedagogy, if I talk about, that is the computational thinking. As we have read just in first or second slide, I have discussed about the 21st century skills, where I was talking about that a student should have the problem solving approach, problem solving capabilities. So this particular pedagogy helps the students to develop the problem solving approach. There are few steps if you are adopting the computational thinking pedagogy. That first you should decompose the content. How to decompose? That you should break it into a smaller steps. You must have heard about the whole to part method. Okay, so that's like the whole part you should decompose into the smaller steps. Then the steps, or maybe in past also, as we in research we used to do the review of related literature, this is like somewhat that pattern recognition, that if the someone else has faced the same problem, how they have solved that problem, that's about the pattern recognition, or finding out the researches which are related with your problem. Then after doing the researches and or after connecting it with the past solution, you should do the abstraction. Abstraction is many times we find out we collect so many information, but when we try to analyze those information, some are very redundant information, or I can say not redundant, just they are not important to us for that particular problem. So you can set aside those unimportant details. So in maybe in some other problem they can be important, but right now if it is not related with your particular content, then you can set it aside. Then you should go for the algorithm. Then you should identify the steps, what steps we will follow to reach the solution. So that's about this step. Then the last step is about debugging. Debugging is if you have adopted some steps and you can't reach to the solution, then you should redefine your steps. And that redefinition of the steps will help you to understand your problem in a better way. Sometimes we just give up on this step. It's the feedback, it's kind of feedback, you can say debugging is a kind of feedback, because in feedback also we have to refine our steps. The same way we should not give up here. It's a kind of beginning, because many times it happens you have designed a pedagogy and that's not at all workable for your students. So you have to redefine the steps. So that's then the another which is very, very important, I think, because yesterday we had the Prime Minister's address to the nation, where he talked about local to vocal, Atmanirbhar Bharat. He was talking about how that Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-independent Bharat is can be, you can say, made I think place-based learning can help in this a lot. If I say about the place-based learning, the place-based learning derives the learning opportunities from the local community setting. Okay, and these help the student to connect abstract concept from the classroom and the textbook with practical challenges encountered in their own localities, because we generally forget our own locality. We have, it's a best way to learn the local problems and to connect it with the pedagogy. Then place here not only refers the physical locality, it's also about the social and cultural layers embedded with neighborhood and engaging with community and environment, as well as observing them. And it's not only applied to the art and humanities, which generally people will think when I say the place-based pedagogy. It's about the science-based learning also, because place-based pedagogy can encompass the service learning, where student and teachers solve the of the local community through place-based learning, and acquire and learn a range of the skills which I have talked in the first slide, like collaborative thinking and critical thinking. So if I see, and it's not about haphazard pedagogy has emerged, it has the educational, if theories have been connected to it. As you must have, place-based learning draws upon the experiential model of the learning by the COB, where active engagement with the situation and resulting experiences are reflected upon to help to conceptualize the learning, which in turn may trigger further exploration or experimentation. It may be structured as the problem-based learning also, which I said, that is unplanned or unintentional learning outcome may occur at the result of the engagement. So it's a kind of incidental learning also, because in community, you never know what kind of learning opportunity comes to you and what kind of unknown problems comes to you. So at that time, your application part or your application understanding will help you to understand that problem. And you must have heard the theory of the Vygotsky of sociocultural contracts, where he talks about that learning episodes are often encountered with and through other people a form of socio-cultural learning. And recently we all are hearing about the network technologies can enhance what experiences may be possible through the connection. That's what the connectivism is. And so that's why I think this place-based learning is really significant, because it has a very sound educational underpinning. And this place-based pedagogy can help in 21st century skills, because the 21st century skills which I have talked about earlier is about the critical thinking and problem solving. The first skill which I have talked about, these are the central to this experiential approach to learning, because it is contextually based. Place-based learning require creativity and innovation by the participants to manage and respond to often unexpected circumstances with unexpected learning outcome, learning opportunity and outcome which may likely to arise. So as an often social form of the learning, communication and collaboration are also the key skills which is developed in this course, because it need to show the sensitivity to the local circumstances. So sensitivity to local circumstances is really required. Then it's an ability to learn the skills to manage socio-cultural interactivity. It will be the central for a range of the subject area taught through the place-based learning. And it's this, it can help in learning of the language, human geography, and it can enhance or augmented by mobile and network technology, because there are a lot of tools are available to enhance this. So I think that this can be well mingled with our educational practices in our classes, this learning, because it place-based learning, it's a kind of, I can say that it's a predate formal classroom-based learning. In a traditional sense of work-based learning, which we used to have the apprenticeship, because as I'm connected with the education school of education, we usually we usually have apprentice for the students, where they used to go for the internship for the schools and community, and like these kind of projects they have. I think this is the work-based learning which can help them to develop their sense of the work-based learning or informal learning of the, I can say the, for example, the language learning. So the aspect of the place-based learning have a long heritage. It's not kind of new pedagogy, I can say. It has a long heritage, such as environmental education. We used to have the environmental education and learning through overcoming neighborhood challenges, with the focus on taking account of learning opportunity like beyond the schoolhouse gate, you have read about. So the place-based learning aligned with the current pedagogical interest in education, that is multidisciplinary, experiential, and aligned with cultural and ecological sustainability. And this will help the India to become the Atmanirbhar Bharat also, and it will a service to local to vocal. So I think this pedagogy should be used for the equity, and this pedagogy should be used to increase the access for the learners. So let's have a place to make India Atmanirbhar Bharat. So with this word, I'm closing my presentation here. I will ask the organizer if they have the questions, kindly ask the questions. My cursor is not going. Let me stop sharing my screen. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Beautifully explained, ma'am. A new perspective, totally a new perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam.
Ma'am, we will take a few questions from participants. Let me go through the chat box, ma'am.
So first, are you going to tell me all the questions and I have to answer all together, or how you want?
I think we will take few questions now, ma'am.
Okay.
Then we will move to our next speaker.
Okay, fine. Yes.
Ma'am, one of our participants wants to know, is computational thinking is applicable to all students at all levels? Can you elaborate on this?
Yes. I think when I talk about the computational thinking, it's applicable to all students at all level, because it depends. It's a kind of problem solving. You can say teaching. So problem solving in elementary level, you can say the way we use this pedagogy is different than when I talk about the higher education, because problem solving approach to teaching is applicable to everyone, because no learner is like a blank learner. Every learner has their own experiences and have the ability to solve the problems. So I think it's applicable at all level.
Okay. I hope it's clear to the participant.
If there are
thank you so much.
They can mail me. In first slide, I have given my mail ID, renuyadav@cuh.ac.in. If you have any further query, you can mail me. Yes, second question.
Okay, ma'am. We will give you mail ID. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, Mohan Patel, sir, he is asking, why not self-defense make every person to education in the society? I think he wants to ask how through education we can make everyone self-dependent. I think you have cleared in your, but yes. Can you elaborate again, ma'am, please?
Yeah, sure. No problem. When I was talking about the place-based education, that I was saying that the whole concept of the technopedagogy is based upon that you have to make the learner the self-learner. Okay, because you are not there to hold their hand and to tell you which option you have to click. And so that's why I said in first slide that it should be the user friendly. Okay, user friendly in terms of the learner as well. So the whole deciding, planning, you can say the slide I have told that you have to consider the learner also. And when you are considering the learner, the whatever the techno-pedagogy you will adopt, that will help the learner for the self-learning.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think we will take one more question. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, one of our participants, she's interested to know how to address computational skills for children with special needs.
Okay.
This is from Priyanka Jaiswal, ma'am.
Okay. Priyanka ji, if you want to know how to, although I'm not a person from the field of special education, but as far as I have the experience, there are, you can say we used to have an intervention program. And with that computer assisted learning, CL, we used to have, and we used to develop the, for autistic children, there is one study our department is doing where they have developed a computer assisted learning module, because maybe because if I talk about the special children, the categories are various. Okay, so I can't say even one category will, the intervention for one category or pedagogy for one category will apply to the another category. But if I talk about one specific category, then you can develop, I think it's a better to have the computational pedagogy for them, because computational pedagogies have more options of the visual learning, of the you can say to enhance their interest also, because we have faced with this problem with the students who are autistic or who are the attention deficient children, that they have this problem. And when they were taught with the computer technology or computer pedagogy, then computer thinking pedagogy, computational thinking pedagogy, then they perform better, because in this particular pedagogy you have more options to engage them. So I think it's a better pedagogy for children with special needs, I can say. But as I have cleared that even one pedagogy can't be as such you can adopt for the another one. So because every child has the different kind of requirements. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, I think we have to move to our next speaker. Thank you so much. You have kindly consented and give your consent to share our questions to your email. Ma'am, we will forward the next questions to your mail. Thank you so much. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ranjana, Dr. Gigi Sa, and Dr. Amrita.
We will proceed now to our next speaker. It's indeed my pleasure to introduce you all to our next speaker for this session, Dr. Alicia Dimitrova. Dr. Alicia is working as Associate Professor of Foreign Language Departments at Donbas State Pedagogical University, Sloviansk, Ukraine. She currently leads the English Access Micro Scholarship Program sponsored by US Embassy in Kyiv. She teaches bright, economically disadvantaged, disabled, displaced students English and leadership skills. Dr. Alicia also works part-time on a local radio station where she hosts her morning and evening shows. Ma'am has completed her graduation from Sloviansk State Pedagogical University, Ukraine. She is an alumna of International Visitor Leadership Program and Women's Political Interaction Studies. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation. I request you to kindly address our participants.
Thank you so much. May I start?
Please, ma'am, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello from Sloviansk, Ukraine. That's a great privilege for me to participate in an international webinar. I like talking. And, you know, there is, in Ukraine, there is such a joke that we spend 3 years to learn how to talk, and then the rest of our life we'll learn how to be silent. And women, oh dear, we talk so much. So I'd like to be very short, 30 minutes, not more. And yeah, you know, the more you speak, the more it is danger to say something wrong. Okay, anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, the participants. Thank you, the principal. Thank you, Dr. Amruta. And yeah, let's start our presentation. So we'll talk today about communication. And I argue that communication is the key to personal and professional success. If you know how to communicate, there are many chances you can get what you want. You can deliver your message. You can kind of be the person who you are. When you communicate, you use your emotional intelligence, which is extremely important in our 21st century. Today, we'll talk about the aims and types of pedagogical communication. We'll talk about different emerging pedagogical trends. And I've created for you a self-evaluation survey. We'll discuss it. And if you want, you can fulfill it and feel great, because we teachers will love to feel great and we love to make our students feel great. Okay, now let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, ma'am? Yes, good.
It's visible. It's visible.
Okay, so the very first screen, this is Ariel University in Israel, 2018. Here, I met 3 wonderful Indian women, which is Dr. Renu, Dr. Nehru, and Dr. Sangreta. You can see them in sari. And after that, my whole understanding of India has changed completely. Before I knew about Taj Mahal in Agra, I loved Bollywood movies. I like, guys, how you dance, how you sing, because I don't sing, neither dance. But in your movies, you did it amazing. When I was young, like yesterday, I even tried to watch one movie, but then I said, Alicia, you have a presentation, be serious. But after I talked to these 3 ladies, I understand that in India, they're smart, friendly, and very interesting people. So every time you meet a person from different nationality, you understand that we have so many in common. And this COVID-19 made our globalization challenges even more bigger, okay? We all share the same pedagogical problems. Now, prepare, I will impress you with my Indian, and then we'll learn a Ukrainian. Are you ready? Yes, ma'am. Namaskar, right? Okay, namaskar. I'm not sure. No, it's not right?
It's absolutely correct, ma'am. Namaskar.
Okay, because I tried it. So this is greetings in Indian for those of you who are not from India. My students are watching. So guys, namaskar is hello in Indian. And do you know how to say hello in Ukrainian? I bet you don't, except my super student. So if you look at the slide, here's a word, vitayu. Vitayu meaning hello in Ukrainian. Vitayu. Dr. Renu, you go to the blackboard and repeat after me. Vitayu.
Vitayu.
Okay, Dr. Amruta, can you please say hello in Ukrainian?
Vitayu.
You see, I was right. Indian women are extremely smart and extremely easy to learn any languages. Seriously, I'd like to share some information about Ukraine. Ukraine is an independent, wonderful country, and it is situated in the geographical heart of Europe. I'm not 100% Ukrainian. My dad is from Ukraine, my mom is not. But there are very hardworking and friendly people who live in Ukraine. As you know, we have a military conflict, and I live 60 kilometers from the military conflict. And I used to be a refugee in 2014. So our country has its challenges, but still we believe in future, we believe in God, and we try, to survive and to enjoy life. Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine. It's a wonderful city. I miss it so much because of quarantine. I can't go there, but I love the capital of Ukraine, which is Kyiv. And yes, it's good to know something about other country, and then you can get to know and you understand yourself more. Today we'll talk about pedagogical communication, human connection versus internet connection. As I was told, my name is Alicia and I live in Slavyansk, and here's my Facebooks and Instagram. You can follow me if you want, or you cannot. I'm fine with that. To start with, I'd like to tell you some of my different roles and how communication helps me to build relationship. So here's the picture of my family. Michael is my husband, Milena, this young lady, a teenager, and Maria. Maria is the youngest one. She is very curious. And once we were sitting and she said, Michael, Milena, Maria. She looked at me and she said, you know what? You don't belong to us because your name starts with O. And then she looked at me and said, but you know what? I'll find the way how you belong. You are Mama. So Michael, Milena, Maria, and Mama. As I was listening to our conversation, I took away 2 points for me. Number one, if you want to communicate and if you want to engage with people, you will always find a way, okay? If you want to understand somebody, because communication, it's about exchanging, you'll do it. Or if you don't want to communicate, you can speak the same language, you can live under the same roof, but still do not communicate. So communication, it's about bringing or making the bridges between people. And point number two, you guys know who is Mama, right? Is Mama in India is the same? Yeah, I bet you know. So we share so many in common. We understand and we long for love and for peace, for knowledge. And all of us love milk chocolate, I believe, because we have so many in common. In different nationalities, in different people, we share the same values. As I told you, I work in Donbas State Pedagogical University, which is in Slavyansk. And I've been working here since 2003. And I got my PhD certificate or diploma. And on this page, I'm with my students. I love my students. They make me think young, look young, and to be young. The students, when older generation want to say something against young people, I try to protect the youth. I mean, they're different from us, which is okay, but they are our future. We as teachers, as educators, we can, shape them, but never break them. Students are people who want to be better. They have so many challenges and they trust that we can help them. And we as educators, we are here to serve our students. Our university was established in 1939, so about 80 years of experience, 80 years of teacher training, seminars, workshops, and we have, if I'm not mistaken, 11 departments. So we prepare English teacher, math teacher, psychologist, economist, different sphere, but it's a teacher training university. My other patient is English Access Micro Scholarship Program in Slavyansk. Here I teach teenagers and students. This program is supported by the US Department of State. And here I don't only teach them English, but I teach them leadership skill, communication skills, and we work to practically kind of build our Ukraine, to change Ukraine for better. This is a very good program, and about 150,000 students all over the world took this program. It operates in 80 countries. The peculiarity of our Access program is that we communicate more. I try not to correct their grammar mistakes. I try not, to give them too many theory. Rather, we go to people with disability and play with them. Or we participate in planting trees or flowers. I want my students to see problem and to react, to be proactive young people. I miss them so much, as you can see. My students are the best. I even have a hashtag in internet, my super students. Every time I make a post, I add a hashtag, my super students. And this is radio. This is my third part-time job. And if you want to be my friend, you should look at this picture and ask, Alicia, who is younger? Because this is my brother. And if you ask me who is younger, you are my friend because I'm older and he's like 3 years younger than me. His name is Edward and I love him. Although as sister and brother, we had different relationship and communication. This is my dad who works on the radio as well. His name is Victor. And when I was 17, many, oh dear, it's more than 20 years ago, I started my first radio project for youth. And my dad has been working about 40 years on the radio. So radio is our passion. Radio is about communication. On our radio station, Radio M, we don't talk about politics, but we rather talk about social issues, about different useful information for the people of Ukraine. Yesterday, I had a live show for 2 hours with 3 ladies. We were talking about women's superpower. I talked to a housewife, I talked to a young politician, and I talked to a women Christian leader. And we discussed, do they have a superpower? And if yes, how do they develop it? So it's a very interesting and very good radio, Radio M, daily, 24/7. So coming back to our presentation, I argue that human connection and communication is the key to personal and professional success. We are created to communicate. We may have animals, we may have hobbies, but we need person-to-person relationship. And if we can do it fairly good, we grow in our personal and professional areas. As you know, communication is the process of sending and receiving messages through different means. You have 4 participants, which is a sender, which is a receiver, then there is a message and interpretation. Very often, sender and receiver, it's clear who they are, me and you. The message is also clear, what we want to exchange, the information, but interpretation, do you make sure people understand you correctly? It's very important to feel your partner in communication. And when it is online, it is much more different to do than in real life. There are verbal types of communication, right? The words that we say. About 7% of the information we get from the words. There are paraverbal, intonation. Working on the radio, I understand that I can play with the voice. I can be loud, I can be very shy. And people react to intonation. Kids, especially kids, they don't understand your language, but they feel mother's intonation and they understand, oh, I'm in problem. The last one is a nonverbal type of communication, excuse me. It's our facial expression, our smiles, our gestures, our posture. Everything is communicating some piece of information. So keeping these components in mind, talking about pedagogical communication, we should understand it's not only about lecture, it's not only about words, it's not only about the knowledge we want to give our students, but it's also about how we speak, how we dress, do we have a good mood? Everything influences our students. According to Sokolova, currently I teach practical phonetics of English language. There are 5 types or 5 styles of intonation. So there is conversational style. We talk with our family members. There's academic style. Every time you are at university giving a lecture or a seminar, you use academic style. Declamatory style. It's stage, the actors use this as playful intonation. And informational style, something what is going on in the media, radio, TV, social media. Every style depends upon speaker's attitude. If you're friendly, if you're serious, then you choose how to use the intonation in your style. The form of communication, is it a dialogue? Is it a monologue? And the last one is the degree of formality and preparedness. Is it a formal style? Like on the lecture, you try to be formal, you try to give the knowledge. Is it informal? With your mom and dad, you can speak pretty informally. Is it a prepared speech or is it a spontaneous speech? For example, talking about academic or scientific style, it is supposed to be serious, it is supposed to be a monologue, and it is supposed to be formal, right? If we talk about conversation, about family type, then it's very friendly, usually, right? If you don't quarrel with your family, it's friendly. Then it's a monologue. Every time you talk to a family member, you want to get a reply, immediate reply, and it is unprepared. If we talk about teachers, I argue that we can divide them into two camps or two types. Are you an R person? The first one is a relationship orientated teacher, and there is a result-driven teacher, okay? A teacher who chooses and values relationship will always try to make sure his students are happy, the learning environment is friendly, is safe, and result-driven teacher, which is also good, he cares about deadlines, he cares about exams, he cares about how well the students get the information. I don't think that if you focus only on your relationship with your students, it's perfect. I don't think so, because we as teachers care about results. But the other extreme is when we forget about human connection, about human communication, and we care only about marks and lectures and academic side, forgetting about relationship. You know, if we compare two teachers, a teacher who has a happy students, who created a very friendly environment, I bet he can make his students pass the exam. And vice versa, if a teacher makes sure his students pass this exam, not always the students are happy and the environment is friendly. So every time we talk to our students, we use the pedagogical communication. I keep in mind two components. I try to build the relationship as well as I care about their results. What my students know, what can they do? Talking about internet connection, there's a picture of a rabbit, I believe it's a white rabbit, and a yellow dog, let it be a dog. And the rabbit says, I worry that Facebook is killing meaningful communication. And the dog goes like, I don't know, should I cry or should I smile? I'm an old school, okay? I was born, oh dear, 39 years ago. And for me, hugs and kisses and, you know, talking to people is much better. But I've got two kids who are in a new generation and who don't share my classroom love that much. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Dr. Renou already talked about 4S models. I would take the same title and talk about the people interaction. Every time people interaction in pedagogical surrounding, in everyday surrounding, there are different types or different modalities. That is communication, when we exchange the information, when we exchange our ideas. There is cooperation, when people do not interfere in each other's business, but still they work together. There is a coordination. We have a person who is responsible for coordinating different activities. And there is a collaboration when something great can be done, but it's a shared creation. Every group does his part, and then we collaborate all together. Communication, it's a process which involves two sides. And talking about pedagogy, an example of classical classroom communication are lectures, exams, tests, everything which can be done in a traditional classroom surrounding. If we talk about online education, we can use audio or video conferences, our chat or emails. So we communicate using different means. Coming to the definition of pedagogical communication, the best one I found by Ahmad, and she says that pedagogical communication is a set of tools and methods to ensure the goals and objectives of education and determine the nature between the teacher and the student. Here, I'd like to underline that this is a mutual exchange of information. I argue that in 21st century, teacher is not the boss. Teacher and students are rather partners. So every time you want to convey your information, you need to understand that it's not only you as teacher giving the information, but these are your students who are giving your feedback. So it's a two-way process, which we use in educational surrounding by means of verbal and non-verbal expressions. What are the aim of pedagogical communication? Do you want to scare your students? I mean, not like, ooh, but do you want to impress them with the great knowledge that you have? Or do you want to entertain them? Do you want to make your lecture, a show? Do you want to influence? Do you want to change their outlook? Or do you want to instruct and give some information? All of it is extremely important. But the aim of the communication, according to Ukrainian scientists at least, it's two-sided. At one side, you need to transfer general and professional experience. As a teacher, you're responsible to give and to teach the skills in your sphere, in your area. But you also need to form and develop new qualities of personality of both teacher and students. My students, they shape me a lot. Every time I have a new class, I understand how I grow. I love to learn. I would rather learn than teach, but I need a job, so I go and teach. Every time somebody gives you an experience, you can learn from it and you can enjoy it. Everything was super perfect in my life between, was it April 2020 when this pandemic started? I'm very good at classroom experience. I'm sorry I'm saying this, but I have 17 years of teaching in the classroom and working on the radio and having other experiences in communication. I love talking to people. My nightmare, I have one nightmare, it's I'm entering a classroom and I cannot get my students' attention. I wake up thinking, God, it's only a dream. I love to build the bridges with my students. And before I give you a confession about me as an online teacher, I'd like to remind us that there are different types of education: traditional classroom education, blended education. Blended, it's when you use or combine online educational materials and the classroom experience. And there is 100% online education. So when the pandemic started, in our Access program, our leadership team wrote us an email and said, if you feel like you are not ready to teach online in Access, you can have a break. And I took 2 months break. I wasn't ready to teach online, not because I didn't know the tools and Zoom and Google and all this presentation. I was overwhelmed by myself and I wasn't ready to influence, because you can give only what you've got. You can give your students only what you've got in your heart. If you have a piece of bread, you can give your students a piece of bread. If you have, I don't know, millions of dollars, you can give millions of dollars to students. I bet you will give the money to students if you had. But if you don't have peace inside, if you're insecure, it's difficult to influence in a positive way your students. So every teacher, I believe, should focus on himself or herself and make sure he can provide and help with his students with different things that he has. There is lots of pedagogical trends that start in the 21st century. 3 of them I'd like to focus on: the more accessible and flexible learning. So right now, classroom, it's not the only place for your students to get the information. And your learning experience, your pedagogical communication should be shaped by this new reality of 21st century. Also, you need more support and negotiation over content and methods. As I mentioned before, the partnership role or model between teachers and students is the new reality. When I was at school and when I wanted to say something, I had to raise my hand and said, may I answer? Right now, well, at least in access classes, if I want my students to talk to me, I ask them to be very respectful, but they can give me their feedback, not raising their hands, not always, okay? They can just give me their feedback. So I argue that our new generation of students require more responsibilities, more respect, so to say. And every time we build our pedagogical communication, we keep it in mind. And technology, yes, technology is even more today, not only for teaching, but to, you know, assess your students' work, we use that technology. And the last but not the least, yes, I've got 4 more minutes. This is a human internet connected teacher self-evaluation survey. You can look at these 6 questions and check yourself. Are you ready to go online and teach online? You can say yes or no. And if you have any challenges, you can use my remarks column and think about it. So the first question, am I flexible? When you start teaching online, when you understand that this is something absolutely new for you, you keep in mind that your students are also struggling. And the isolation itself, it's a huge stress to all of us. And when they're in class and when they have a question, they can ask either teacher or turn to their fellow classmate and ask for help. When they're teaching by themselves online, we as teachers need to be very flexible, very friendly, and very understanding. So many students are not adapted. As Dr. Renou said, lots of students don't have internet access and they need to wait for their turn to use computer. In Ukraine, not every family has a computer, and sometimes they share to get their homework done. So as a teacher, I try to be very understanding, okay? I try to make their, excuse me. Excuse me. So are you flexible? Can your materials be found online? If you want to teach online, you not always can use your textbooks. So make sure you put your lectures and your seminars notes online, so your teacher could find them online. Are my instructions and expectation clear? My fellow teacher said that you might record your homework instructions on the video, watch yourself, and if it is not clear, to repeat it again to make sure your students understand your instructions clearly. Do I ask my students for feedback? When you start an online education, very often you think that you are doing fine and your students are struggling with something. So you may ask your students for feedback. It can be a Google form, it can be an email where they give their feedback. What are the weak sides of your project, the strong sides, so you can work on it? Do I support my fellow teachers? Because right now in this conference, we're supporting each other. We share our challenges and we support each other by providing and exchanging information. And the last question, am I kind to myself? To be a teacher is a very noble profession, but except job of a teacher, we have our family issues, we have the pandemic issues, we have probably health issues, and very often our priority is only job. I would like to remind you to be kind to yourself. When you are satisfied, a happy teacher makes his students happy as well. My last question before I'm ready for your questions. Are you an IT person? Are you good at using technology? If you are good at using technology, that is wonderful. If you are not good at using technology, but you are a person, that is extremely important. As a person, as a human being, you can use your emotional intelligence and to reach your students. Thank you so much for listening for my presentation. Today we talked about pedagogical communication, human connection versus internet connections. And before I give floor to Dr. Amru, who is ready to tell me how is hello in Ukrainian? Any volunteers? Dr. Renu, do you want to try again? What is hello in Ukrainian?
Witаю.
Yes, that is wonderful. Now I feel very privileged. I'm a good teacher, am I? At least I can teach one Ukrainian word. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Вітаю. You don't say вітаю.
Вітаю.
But you can say it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Ma'am, we'll take a few questions now. Just give me a second, ma'am. Ma'am, our first question is from Dr. Prerna. She's asking how communication is related to emotional intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, as we know, emotional intelligence consists of 5 ingredients, 5 components. That is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Every time you try to use your social skills, you need communication. So I argue that communication as a human connection brings its power to build your emotional intelligence. Soft skills and hard skills. Soft skills are about communication, tete-a-tete, online, but building the bridges, emotional and physical, sometimes bridges between people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to share my... Okay. Ma'am, if I pronounce it correctly, second question is, how can literature contribute to disabilities?
Thank you. My father is absolutely blind person. When he was 4 years old, he went on the street and the children were playing arrows. And one arrow hit the left eye of my father, and he lost his eye when he was 4. When he was 8, my father was writing something. Oh no, my father's friend was writing something, and dad came and leaned over his shoulder. And the friend did like this with his pen, and his pen hit it in his right eye. So when he was 8, my dad completely lost his sight. Do I have a beautiful eyes? Yes, because I've got my father's eyes. My dad had never seen me, but I never thought I'm a daughter of a disabled person because my dad is a professor. My dad is extremely smart person, and he reads with braille. Do you know there's a shift where the blind people use with their fingers? So literature, it's not only for people with disability. Even if you are healthy, you need to read a lot to be able to communicate, to be able to think, analyze, and live a fully and happy life.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. One more question, ma'am.
Yes.
It's asked by Rajesh Savanan. How the communication relation can be built in the education system? I think you have explained it nicely, but please elaborate.
Yes, very, very clearly. Thank you for the question. I love when I'm asked. I love it's a great challenge to think and to make sure you got my presentation. Communication is the key for your professional and personal success. A very successful teacher is the one who can be probably not like friend, like I am and Renou, for example. But if you can create a very friendly and safe environment, only then your students will be able to listen and to learn. I told you I am a war survivor. 60 kilometers, this if you go this way, there is a military conflict. 6 years ago, my family had to flee from Sloviansk, from this our house where I sit now. And I had 2 months and I was in Kiev, and I could go to webinars and seminars. And my husband said, I know you love teaching or learning. I will pay for you, just relax. I tried to learn, but because of my emotional problem, because of this military things, I could not concentrate. So I argue that it is our responsibility to make sure our students feel safe, friendly. If you can feel yourself safe, only then you can get the information and learn well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we will mail you the other questions. We have some more questions, but due to time constraint, we will mail you all the questions. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, we will take a break for 10 minutes. I request you all to join by 12:50. Thank you so much. Welcome back. We will start with our next section. It's my privilege to invite and introduce Dr. Vinay Godre, our next speaker. Dr. Vinay Godre, PhD in Mauritian Hindi Literature, is presently working as Associate Professor and Head, Department of Hindi Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. His various accomplishments have been recognized by many awards, including First Prize for International Travelogue Competition, First Prize for Hindi Short Story Competition. He was also awarded Sahitya Shiromani Samman by Sahityak Shodh Sanstha, Mumbai. Sir has participated and conducted many international seminars, workshops, and conferences. His articles have been published in many international refereed journals. He has been scriptwriting for numerous films and serials. He also won Best Writer and Best Actor for Ashok Ki Chinta, a contemporary play. Sir also presented Srijan, a weekly TV program in Mauritius. Sir has keen interest in innovative teaching pedagogies and creation of techno-pedagogical materials and open educational resources. Actually, I can go on with his achievements, but time being a constraint, I conclude and invite Dr. Vinay Godre. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Vinay Godre, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ranjanaji. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you
Please
hear
continue.
me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ranjanaji. Thank you, Dr. Amrita, Dr. Renu, and Dr. Olesia, and your principal and all the attendees. A very good morning. Hey, it is still morning. In India, it's afternoon. So you might have been having your Indian chai, which I missed so much during this break of 10 minutes. So here we go. Okay. I find on this webinar that there are very few men, if not to say I'm the only one. So we need to ensure gender parity at times. It's very important. And as Dr. Renu was talking about equity and everything. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So here we go. So again, thank you very much. That's indeed a very interesting topic, a theme that you have kept about role of innovative teaching strategies to enhance pedagogy, which is indeed the talk of the day, mostly because of the COVID-19 situation, but yet, you know, we are moving towards a paradigm shift, and we are having lots of changes in the whole educational scenario. So keeping all this in mind for your attendees and for all those who are following me, I'm proposing this topic of the 21st century teacher, adopting a learner-centered approach for online teaching and learning. As I have heard all the enthusiastic speakers prior to me, I can feel the passion. A teacher is someone who is very passionate, who is very engaged and give himself or herself fully, more than fully, I would say, to his or her commitments. But then at the same time, passion is one side. There is another side of the coin is skills. So we need to acquire certain skills in order to sustain in the 21st century educational scenario. Right. So for my introduction, I'm going to deal on these following areas. First of all, I start with the challenges and apprehensions of online teaching. I'll situate the context of online teaching, and then what is the learner-centered approach and the 21st century learner. How does he or she looks like? And we'll move on with the 21st century teacher and what are the skills and competencies required for that teacher. And then I'll talk a bit about certain models of for creating online contents, which I usually make use here in Mauritius, and the choosing of online tools. And if time permits, I'll talk a little bit on online assessment and evaluation, where I'll conclude my presentation and then address the certain queries. So at the very outset, when we are talking about the 21st century teacher and the skills, etc., required, there are some very pertinent questions that come to our mind. Each teacher academic who is listening to us right now, we had to shift drastically during the COVID-19 situation. Hopefully in Mauritius today, all the students from primary, secondary, they have resumed schools after almost 4 months of confinement. But then how did we manage? I'll talk about this a bit later. But for the teacher, what are the challenges? The first thing is the fear, the apprehensions. I don't have the required skills. Am I ready? The preparedness also is one aspect of it. Number two is, how do I adapt to the 21st century skills? Because the situation has changed. We are dealing with students of this century. Our approach, our pedagogy, our strategies all need to be upgraded, all need to be adapted. Now, how do I ensure the learner-centered approach? I've been doing that in my classroom, but in this scenario, how do I sustain it? Or how do I improve on it? Now, another query will be, where do I start with online teaching and learning? What is the starting point? How should I proceed? Which platform do I use to achieve my objectives? And then, which tools are required? Do I imperatively need a laptop connection, connectivity? Do I need mastery over Zoom, over all these software? So how do I proceed ahead? The mechanism that we use to follow. And you know, in teaching, it's not only giving lecture. You talk, we've been talking, and as Dr. Alicia said, even I'm also, I love talking, I love sharing experiences, but beyond that, you have a whole system, a whole educational mechanism and process that is behind that teaching and learning. From the very start of my lecture to evaluation and to ensuring the quality assurance and delivery and marking and everything, I have to follow all these protocols. So do my students have proper internet connection? This is a big issue in India, I know, especially in remote areas. From all the webinars I've done, I've gathered this issue. And how do I ensure effective online assessment? Now we are called to assess our students online and evaluate them. In Mauritius, when we had this pandemic of COVID-19 in March, the universities needed to continue. We needed to shift to online. We had recourse to MS Teams, we had recourse to Business Skype, to Zoom and Google Meet, etc. So how did we ensure that we are converting the conventional face-to-face physical examination into the online assessment and evaluation? And which criteria did we have to follow? So it was like ratorat, we had to devise a mechanism. We had to work on instructions and everything. How do I engage my students actively in this process? If I go online and it remains static, I'm not that passionate and not that engaging. So that will reflect on my students. How do I evaluate myself as a teacher? And another question is, how do I use the feedback and surveys for further improvement? So just to situate you, some of the areas that I'm covering have already been covered previously. I'll go very fast with certain things. So the context of teaching and learning, basically you have the teacher, the learner, you have the strategies, you have the resource materials, the content, and now we have ICT added to all this process. So when we talk about the online teaching and learning activity, in order to create material online, we have to adapt to certain new things. The first thing is our existing strategies face to face or conventional way of teaching need to be upgraded, need to be adapted. And here is where we have to innovate. We have to come with our innovative teaching strategies. This is number one. Number two is our readiness to use tools and other logistics. So the infrastructure which we have been talking before that. And then online assessment, that also a huge area. So when we talk about online pedagogy, I've already mentioned we have the teaching materials, you have your learning objectives, the instructions should be very clear, because if you're not physically present in front of the student, virtually you are there, but you are giving your activities, learning activities, the instructions should be very explicit and very clear. The processes and mechanisms which I mentioned, and then you have certain models that you can adapt, which I'll talk a bit later on that, and then the tools and platforms. So today, I'll take the example that of Mauritius. We are moving from the conventional, traditional classroom to the flipped classroom. So what is a flipped classroom basically? It's compared to the traditional classroom where the teacher comes in the class and deliver the lecture and give homework, which is meant to be done at home. But within a flipped classroom model, the students are engaged, even at home, they are engaged with the peers, with the teachers through online discussions, and they have lots of interactions. And this engagement keeps on going. That is, the learning, teaching and learning activity doesn't end when the teacher goes out of the class. So this is the saying of the 21st century college. How are we supposed to be to exist in this world? We are supposed to be investigative explorers. I'm sorry, innovate in our approach. We have to be creative. That's very important. As readers, as learners, as teachers, we have to be very versatile. Dr. Alicia talked about the emotional aspect of it, emotional intelligence and everything. So we have to adapt, we have to collaborate, and we have to keep pace with the digital fluency that is there. So this is a kind of a perfect scenario of the 21st century classroom, where you can see how the learners are learning, and then the teacher is not merely the sole speaker of the in the classroom, because usually when we teach, we call it in pedagogical terms, the teacher is in a black box. We are in a closed room, and then we are the master. Whatever we say, it's supposed to be implemented, it's supposed to be obeyed, and then instructions given are to be followed and all this. But in this 21st century environment, we have to collaborate. The teacher now needs to collaborate, to partner with the students so as to ensure that effective teaching is done. So why is there the need for a learner-centered teaching? Research has shown that when the learner is put in focus, the learner is the prime focus of the education or teaching and learning activity, there is increased student engagement with the content. There is deep learning. There is long-term retention, and that psychoanalyst might confirm that point. Acquisition of critical skills and creative problem-solving skills. There is a positive attitude towards what is being taught, and also confidence in knowledge and skills. So 4 points that the learner-centered approach usually ensures is that learning is personalized. I get the feel that as a learner, the learning has been conceptualized for me. Second is learning is competency-based. You don't treat, talking about equity means you don't give the same kind of activity or work to the whole class. It is more competency oriented, and learning happens anytime, since we are online, anywhere, and students take ownership over their learning. Now, a very brief comparison between the teacher-centeredness and the learner-centeredness. Usually, what we have been doing is, as I said, that we are the master of the class. We have been talking, students have been listening, students have been working alone. Lessons are decided by the teacher, evaluation also, and there's rigidity, there's class control, classroom management, and everything. But in a learner-centered approach, the focus is shared both on the students and teachers. Students collaborate, as I mentioned it. Students have some choice of the topics because the learning objectives will change there. And when the learning outcomes will happen, so it will be more, let's say, a little bit of more subjective kind of it. So students work at their own pace, they evaluate, and there exchanges feedback and reviews and all. This is a research done by Anderson, who mentions that there are four types of centeredness. Among all these, learner-centeredness is a very important one. And this is the atmosphere where we have to be original, we have to be authentic, we have to develop our inquisitive skills, we have to be reflective. There are certain models we can follow, and we become productive, we become very effective in the real sense of it. So the 21st century teacher needs to have, first of all, commitment. You need to be committed, you need to pursue, you need to engage yourself, you need to prepare. The second thing is preparedness. So the third one is you have to organize yourself. It's very important since we are going online. Everything is transparent now. Everything is, you are accountable for everything. It's not like the black box. You are, whatever you do, that you might hide something, so like that. And then tolerant, you have to be patient with your students, lots of storytelling, sharing of experiences, open for questions. You have to be innovative, and you also need to balance the social aspect of it. So you have to be technologically enthusiastic, and you have to go for all that is called the important things regarding the technological mastery. These forces have already been dealt: creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking. So I'll skip that. And as the 21st century teacher, if I go as per the model of Hamilton from Australia, Deakin University, four aspects come out of this. The teacher of today's time is the pragmatist one. He always finds a better way of doing things. Secondly, he is also a theorist. That is, theorist in that sense, not very rigid, but in the sense of developing theories, developing frameworks, devising new methodologies. And when the teacher finds it is logical, it's good, then we move ahead. He's the activist and very active. So he should be like ready to innovate, ready to try anything, and then just go for it. Sky is the limit. And then the reflector, just ponder, and then be cautious and think what can be improved more. So now coming to the skills and competencies, most of them have already been dealt in the previous slides. The 21st century teacher needs to encourage reflection. That's very important. In today's time, let's take again what has hit us, the whole humanity, coronavirus. So those who are able to sustain are those who have developed certain skills and competencies. So how are we reacting to situations? How are we reacting to fear? How are we building on the family bonding? How are we taking care of others? So these are the skills that need to be reinforced. And this is ultimately the broad goals of education, where the learner is encouraged to reflect. The learner is encouraged to develop thinking skills. The learner is encouraged to collaborate. In today's time, if you don't collaborate, you remain very closed within your four walls, you are not bound to improve or to progress. So we have to adjust with enabling technologies. The assessing, the modes of assessment have totally changed. We have to develop problem-solving skills. We have to work on kind of project-based learning. So all these kind of development form parts of the skills and competencies of this. And to add on, we have peer review. We have, as innovation and creativity, I said, sharing of ideas and resources. Very important. We need to live in that world of sharing, and then like this we move on. But then this is the whole background of the 21st century education. So as a teacher, where do I start? What do I do? The very first thing is I have to wear a new pair of glasses. I need to ponder on my existing teaching strategies. I need to reflect on how can I improve, adapt, adjust with the new technologies. And this is very important, where we are redefining the new methodologies. So the question is, how do I transform my learner-focused classroom into an online platform? So this is a kind of mind mapping that we can follow. First of all, when we go online, we have to ensure that the voice reflects the tone that we are talking. We are still motivated. It's not like a very static, a dormant, or just a very different kind of tone. Number two, the choice. We have to give students choices. This is very important, not being rigid. The time for reflection. They need to gather, they need to catch up, they need to move on, and we have to give them opportunities to innovate, enhance critical thinking, as I said, and all this follows thereafter. You all know about the Bloom's taxonomy. I'll not come on this, but for online, there is an adapted Bloom's digital taxonomy, which we talk about, and then where we move towards the higher order thinking skills. So someone in these days who can create, who can produce things, who can develop content, who can be engaged in curriculum development, who can innovate with ideas and then adapt to the teaching pedagogy, is someone who is ready to welcome this 21st century education. And for that, in Mauritius, we usually use this model, which I'm sharing with you. It's called the ADI model, when we go online using a learning management system platform. So the very first thing is that we analyze, A for analysis, and then what are the requirements, what I'm supposed to do, and how will I proceed. We start designing with the learning objectives and the format and all, and we start developing a kind of prototype and course materials and reviewing and trialing, and all this come, and then we implement it, and then after that evaluation and all. So this is the model that we follow normally. And then I connect it to May's conceptualization model, which says that there is a joint collaborative learning that happens. And Mays talks about the three phases, the three stages of it. The first one is at the conceptualization stage, where we start exposing ideas or concept to the learner, and then now we are moving towards the virtual learning. Second is construction. We are moving towards the learning activities, and when we go online, there are tons of activities that can be developed to enhance learning. And then after that, dialogue is very important. We always need to communicate, and communication is one big part of this. So for me, the technique is very simple. 3 phases. We engage our students in class activities. That's very important. If we have a Zoom class, or we go in Google Classroom today, and after 3 weeks, 1 month, then again we catch up. So there is a big gap in between. We have to keep on the process going. Second, we have to identify the challenges and issues, and then get feedback. That will help us. Feedback is very important in today's time. So use any means, but then gather feedback, and then we adopt and adapt with our teaching strategies. So basically, these are the tools. We all know about that, from YouTube video to the physical tools that we possess, PC, tablet, interactive whiteboard in classroom, video conferencing system, Zoom, MS Teams, etc. And then we have the projector, digital recorder. How do I make the best use of all these tools that are available? Or with the minimum tools that I have, how do I use them? That is, I have my smartphone and I have WhatsApp in that. I have audio software. I have video recorder. I have image. I have anything. How do I convert all these existing features and software and applications that I have in this mobile phone to enhance my learning? This also is an area that we need to explore. But then my question to you all is, COVID-19 taught us to be a master of Zoom, of Google Meet and all. But when we are conducting our classes via Zoom and all these applications, does that mean that we have ensured online teaching? You should not be confused. Using online tools simply doesn't mean that we are successful in online teaching, because you can be master of the best tools available, but then it may not necessarily be the most suited one for my students. This we have to take care. The end user is always the student in that. And just sharing some examples that we have been using. Previously, I was using a lot of this learning management system of Moodle, but until recently, some years back, we shifted to Google Classroom. And then Google Classroom is as well a good platform that can be used. With a Gmail account, you can create that, or G Suite, you get more features on that. So you create your module, and this is some screenshots that I'm sharing with you, where you upload your module catalog, module information sheet, your syllabus, and then your all the activities, assignments, and then you go for your online assessment and all that. And there are certain structures you can create, guidelines for your students and all. This is about Google Classroom. But coming back to Moodle, which is a more integrated learning management system, you have everything that is available within Moodle, especially when you are moving for online assessment. That's very, very, I think a very important tool that all teachers need to use. So these are some examples that of my previous materials that I've uploaded. You can have a look, and you can track your users, how are they participating, which folders they have access to, and how frequent are they in accessing to the contents. And you have a total follow-up, and when they submit their assignments, you grade them, and then the performance is there. You use your calendar, lots of activities. So online, coming to online evaluation, then the need is very pressant, like in French we say, very important here, because it demands the need for innovation and creativity. That's one. But also the students are engaged actively. Now we are in the process of here at my institution, we are completing the phase of correction, and next week I've kept a moderation committee in the department. So everyone is engaged. Everyone is correcting all the assignments that have been submitted on Google Classroom here, in lieu of the regular examinations where students had to sit in the class and then give the 2 to 3 hour paper. So there, the students are very engaged and very active in that. So they work as per the time and space and pace they used to. So it also developed their inner potentials. They have a mastery over the tools also. There is easy interactions. There is always room for communication anytime. outside the class, online, you become an active partner. That's very important. And students definitely find using online, and later on I can share some statistics and surveys that we have conducted, because this is not an academic presentation, it's more like sharing of certain ideas. So students really find it very useful to go for online assessments. Of course, there are certain subjects, like Dr. Renu is from the science background. It's very difficult to conduct practical or laboratory related exams or assessment. But then even I've heard that the government of India has placed on some virtual lab, something like this, that can help on. So I'll not venture much on that side because that's not my area. But coming back to the students, they find it interactive. They are using the same tool for playing games, for venturing on Facebook, using WhatsApp, but at the same time, the same tool is being used for their learning. So it's so accessible for them. Of course, if you have your tool, you have the infrastructure, and you have internet connectivity, which I repeat is again a big issue on that. So how do I, as a teacher now, the 21st century teacher, I know what my skills are now, what my competencies, what is expected of me, what is the 21st century learner profile. I already know about this. What are the platforms and infrastructure that I can use? And now, how do I proceed for online evaluation? Now we have to strategize, we have to plan, we have to organize, we have to set goals, and then of course, based on the desired outcomes. And then which strategies am I going to use to set my questions? Am I going to for more subjective kind of questions? How do I cater for open book online assessment? How do I ensure that there is no plagiarism? Because even using proctor examinations online doesn't ensure everything. Students might be copying from somewhere. So how do I make the students be reflective in the answers, and be critical about their answers also? So these are some very important steps that we can follow. We have to choose the proper platform. That's very important. It's not on the 11th hour or on the eve that we decide, okay, I'm installing Zoom now, I'm going for Google Meet now, and then the next day you set your online examination there. No, it should have been tested prior. You need to have that training, which we are getting right now, which we are getting used with that. So we have to work on the assessment criteria also, our model answers, our marking schemes, and all this are very important and should be very explicit with all the instructions and the guidelines. And of course, following that, feedback and surveys are very important. So as a tutor, how do I assess my online teaching courses that I have uploaded? I need to concentrate on the content. The instructional design is very important. The shape, the look, the presentation of my lessons online is totally different from what it is face-to-face. Interactivity is one element that I need to consider very seriously. And then there should be authentic hands-on and experiential work that goes behind all this. Compatibility software, at times I'm using certain software that's not compatible. My students are using an older version of it, so they can't get access to this. So we have to just think about all these probable challenges that my students can face. And then assessment and audit trail and all. So track record also, I have to keep the track record, and then improvement, which I think is very important. So how do I assess my students online? Is basically we have a variety of types of assessments. I'll not talk much about that, but of the main are authentic assessment, where we are asking for life experiences of our students, of their ongoing and progress in learning. We focus on performance tasks like project and report and subjective or other kinds of questions. Portfolio assessment is also very important, and observation definitely is should be at the center of all these. Just to share some experiences with all of you, that I've been using all possible platforms from years and years supplement my teaching, my conventional teaching. Facebook, I have used it to the maximum. Whatever workshops we've been doing in those days with all Mauritian Hindi educators from primary to secondary, and then empowering them in ICT, empowering them in emerging technologies or techno-pedagogical approach and all this. So all these are there on Facebook and all. And recently, I'll be ending with this. I am on 32 minutes right now. So Talim is a framework that I have devised, and I'm writing a research paper on that for a conference in December. It is teaching of Asian languages in Mauritius. So the confinement period, where for 3 months our students stayed at home, the Ministry of Education of Mauritius decided that we need to produce educational materials, digital materials, to be telecast on the national TV, on various channels of national TV every day for primary education, just to ensure that students are not cutting off from the classes and the lectures, etc. So I got the responsibilities from the ministry at my institution. I was the project coordinator, where I had 133 people working with me and collaborating, and we ultimately produced over 1,500 videos, educational videos of 10 to 15 minutes in all Asian languages: Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Urdu, and modern Chinese. So a whole process and mechanism was behind that, and then which I'm working on that. So as I said, I've been using WhatsApp. WhatsApp also can be used. I have my class WhatsApp group, where we share all the techno-pedagogical resources and the links and video links and the instructions, etc., as you can see on that. I've been using blog for a long time. So this is from WordPress, one of my blogs, and this is a model that I've developed for online introductory course in Hindi in Mauritius. Later on, you can have a look on that. And coming to my concluding remarks. So definitely online teaching in the 21st century scenario compels us to go for customized contents. Our contents are not those that the notes that we have we use since our university days. No, we have to adapt it to the needs, to the learning objectives. Training and capacity building is very important for each and every one. Support to academics and students at from institutional level, which I feel is a very important aspect. Institutional incentives, like my institution should give me, my university should give me the proper amenities, the proper infrastructure, high-speed connectivity, laptops, and audio tools, etc., so that I can it can facilitate me to go along with my online teaching. Motivation is very important right now. We have to replace fear, apprehension by this passion and motivation. Mentoring to budding academics, that's very important. I'm weak in that. I have very low confidence in adopting the online tools. So I should be mentored. I should be groomed. That's very important. Workshops should be there. Processes, mechanisms should be established, because it's a new mode of teaching, new mode of learning. Internet connectivity is one aspect that each country should look at, and then provide all the technological logistics, and upskilling and upgrading programs should always be there. Right now, I am on my 35th minutes, so I'm ending here. I thank you very much for your attention, and I welcome all the questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Elaborated yet very concise presentation. Thank you so much. Sir, we will take a few questions now. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Sir, Suman ma'am, she is asking, can all these modern approaches fruitful in Indian classrooms in these situations where even internet access is difficult? I would like to ask one more question, sir, because it is similar, very much similar questions asked by Lona, if I pronounce it correctly. How can 21st century teaching and learning be effective if students have no internet connection at home? What are the possible strategies to be utilized?
So thank you, Suman, and the other person for this question. That's very interesting, and it's a very pertinent issue, especially in many areas in India. And when we talk about remote areas, villages, students traveling 60, 70, more than 80 kilometers to go to university to have access to that. But in their village, they don't have internet connectivity. How will that student connect? That's a big issue, and I think a few measures can be adopted. Number one is at the national level, the Ministry of HRD. I'm sure that they are reflecting on this because the situation is so critical that we need to dispense education, disseminate it, and give it. The reach out should be there for internet connectivity. Number one. Second, from the universities also, there are certain measures that can be taken to enhance, to give possibilities. For example, last time I had a faculty development program with GNU colleagues. So there the Vice Chancellor said that there are many unused old PCs that are lying here and there. So it's a big business for entrepreneurs to take on these laptops and PCs and then sell to needy students so that they can get access. Number three, there can be local hosting in villages. You have lots of NGOs working for the betterment of students and all these. So they can provide some hotspots or certain areas where they can ensure connectivity. I think it's more a local problem, though it is very universal. Yeah,
yes,
thank
sir,
you.
I understand. Sir, our next question is from Renato Olana. How can online communication make some meaningful learning when talking about students' well-being, emotional well-being? She's concerned about emotional well-being of students in this situation.
Okay, yeah. So I think Dr. Olesia replied part of this question. That's also very important. When we go online, we have the tendency to believe that everything is virtual, everything is only machine. There is no human touch. That's the general impression that we have. But imagine I'm connecting with you from Ukraine, India, and Mauritius. We are connected. You can see my face. You can see the expressions. Today, my kids, I have triplets, by the way, so they are in grade 3. So today they went to school with their mask, and it is compulsory. The teacher of primary schools will wear the mask while explaining in the class. I was wondering, how will my kids follow the gestures, the facial expressions of the teacher? Because the teacher, whatever he or she articulates, they follow all these things. So learning happens very informally also. You have those aspects of the physical, the expressions, the gestures, and everything that's very important. But you know, it comes to the human at the end of the day. I can be very technological here, but at the same time, I can give you all a very big virtual hug, and you can feel that from my face. You know, you can cater for certain soft skills, but then there are still certain limitations. I do agree.
Yes, sir, very true. Sir, our next question is from Ome Christian. He's asking, how can 21st century teacher in vocational school during this COVID-19 pandemic, since the core value is skill acquisition? So I think he's basically concerned about vocational education, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially in rural area. Especially in rural area.
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. So first of all, you know, the learning objectives for vocational education is totally different from the conventional one. There we are talking about creativity. We are talking about innovation. We are talking about producing certain things. We are talking about inventing certain things. So I think it can be done to a certain extent by giving proper guidelines, by helping the students with lots of visual presentation of what you are doing, what you have achieved, which level of the process you are in, and how can you go further. Secondly, peer sharing is very important. That's an essential factor. I do believe in that. Students learn more from their peers than they learn from us. That's very true. So for vocational, we can try all these strategies. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll take one more question, sir. This is last
Sure.
one. This is asked by Mr. Abhirami Raj. He's asking, there is still digital divide in many parts of the world. So is it practical to rely on complete online teaching? Maybe he's concerned even after this pandemic situation also.
No. You know, I've conducted various surveys with my students, with colleagues here, academics and everyone. I've been involved in so many webinars across the world, but the final kind of recommendation is that we cannot go 100% online for all the courses. The technology cannot replace the teacher. I do agree with all my previous speakers, but then the technology is here to enhance, to follow our commands. How do I make the best use of what I have to achieve the learning objective? So going fully online, I don't think it's a good idea, because you will be missing out certain soft skills. You will be missing out certain other, what we call the hidden curriculum aspects of your lessons and all these. So I do believe for a hybrid mode of teaching, a blend of both online and face-to-face. That's very important. Yeah.
Very true, sir. I think blended learning is the solution. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I thank you. I thank you all very much. Please feel free to share this PowerPoint. I'll send it to you, and then feel free to disseminate, because knowledge is sharing. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. That will be very helpful, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I now request Dr. Amrita Panda to propose vote of thanks. Ma'am?
Ranjana ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Our Honorable Chairman, Dr. R. Varadarajan, esteemed speakers, respected Principal, Dr. G. Sai, and all valued participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. With this quote, I, Dr. Amrita Panda, on behalf of Saraswati College of Education and Research, Dombivli, Maharashtra, along with the entire team, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing their important work and sharing with us their findings and opinions today. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Olisia from Ukraine for her explanation on pedagogical communications, human connection versus internet connection, in which emphasized on communication, especially the points like communication is the key to personal and professional success. It is impossible to create a safe and positive and productive learning environment unless teacher and students are able to develop relationships. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Renu Yadav from India for the informative speech on techno-pedagogy for access and equity, in which she emphasized on 4 C's and also in detail about the 21st century support system. I also like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Vinay Gudari for giving an excellent coverage to the theme of this webinar with the topic, the 21st century teacher, adapting a learner-centered approach for the online teaching and learning, in which he described very nicely about the challenges and the apprehensions in online teaching and learning process. I would like to thank you all the participants of the webinar for your continuous patience, enthusiasm, and positive feedbacks for making this event a great success. Thank you all. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on order our hearty thanks to Dr. R. Vardarajan, our Honorable Chairman, for the perfect logistic backing and guidance he has extended to all of us at this occasion. I also extend my thanks to Dr. Gigi Sahai, Principal, Saraswati College of Education and Research, for her continuous motivational support and enormous cooperation in the organization of this event. And as no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to our entire team of Department of Education for organizing this international webinar. Thank you guys for making this event successful with your contribution. Lastly, I must say namaskar to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Once again, I would like to thank all the wonderful speakers of today's webinar and giving their precious time. Dr. Alicia, Dr. Vinay, Dr. Renu, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for your cooperation. I would also like to thank all the participants. With this, we are going to end this webinar session. Before that, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form. Kindly fill the feedback forms. It has been shared with you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. We are ending this session now.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.